let's begin. But be warned, this video is uncomfortable. It's not soft, and it's definitely not what you want to hear. But it is exactly what you need. Since childhood, you were taught to look outward, to search for someone to blame, to attach a name and a face to your suffering. And yes, often that name becomes your mother's. But here's what no one dares to say. It's not your mother who still holds you. It's what your mind did with her. No, this isn't criticism. It's not an attack. It's a truth so uncomfortable that few dare to speak it aloud. Your mother lives in your unconscious, long after she leaves the room. You tried to move forward. You searched for peace. But peace cannot come while you are still trapped in a war. You don't even realize you're fighting. What war? The war against an image. Against a figure not made of flesh and bone, but of shadow. An archetype that took root in you before you even learned to speak. And the scariest part? This shadow doesn't leave on its own. Carl Jung called it the mother complex. And no, it's not just another psychological label. It's an emotional prison with invisible bars. It's a voice that judges you without ever speaking. It's a void that nothing seems to fill. It's a hunger for approval dragged from your childhood. And the cruelest part, it's not even yours. It's an inheritance, an echo, a mark on the skin of your soul. You may be wondering, how do I heal this? That's where the real work begins. Because as long as you see your mother as an all-powerful figure, whether to adore or to blame, you are not seeing your mother. You are seeing a myth, a projection, a distorted image shaped by years of unmet needs, unspoken wounds, and silences filled with resentment. And the most painful part? That myth controls your life more than you're willing to admit. Every decision made in search of approval, every relationship that collapses because you're still waiting to be saved, every time you fail to set a boundary, all of it has roots deeper than you think. Those roots were planted in childhood, in the gaze that never landed on you, in the hug that never happened, in the word that was never said. And now you are grown, but inside, you are still that child, longing to hear your mother say, "It's going to be okay." But here's the most brutal truth. That moment will never come. Because healing is not about making her change. Healing is about no longer waiting for her to do so. And that's devastating. You were told that forgiveness is the key, that understanding is the path, that you should try to put yourself in her shoes. And yes, all of that may help. But not if you skip the most important step. Look inside. Acknowledge. This wound is no longer someone else's responsibility. It's yours, and yours alone. No one is coming to heal it for you. Tell me, how many times have you caught yourself acting just like her? Saying or doing the very things you swore you never would. That's the trap. The complex isn't just emotion, it's behavior. It lives in you. It guides you. And if you don't make it conscious, it will turn you into its repetition. The pattern repeats again and again until someone becomes brave enough to break it. And breaking it hurts. Because it means killing the illusion, letting go of the hope that what never was will be, accepting that there will be no magical fix, that childhood will not be rewritten, that the comfort you never received, you must now give to yourself. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to stop waiting to be loved the way you needed and start loving yourself the way you deserve? Because that is the door. There is no other. In Jung's language, the mother is not just the woman who gave you life. She is an archetype, a symbol. She represents origin, safety, emotional nourishment. But she can also represent suffocation, dependence, the fear of being yourself. And when this archetype is not integrated, it becomes a shadow you project onto everything. Partners, bosses, friends. You wait for someone to save you, to understand you without words, to care for you unconditionally. But that isn't love. That's lack. And lack cannot be filled by another person. It is filled with truth, with awareness, with courage. The first step. Stop idealizing her. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't a goddess. But neither was she the demon she may sometimes seem to be. She was human, broken, wounded, fighting her own battles. She did what she could with what she had. Sometimes that was very little. That doesn't excuse the damage, but it explains it. And in that understanding, something loosens. Not a forced forgiveness, but a liberating realization. Because idealization is just as toxic as resentment. Both keep you trapped. Both pull you away from reality. And the reality is this. You no longer need a mother. You need a stronger you, a more compassionate you, a more conscious you. And that version of you doesn't appear by accident. It must be created. Want to know how? Start watching your reactions. Every time you feel rejected, ask, who am I really seeing right now? The person in front of me, or a wound I still haven't healed? Every time you crave unconditional love, ask, do I want love, or am I still trying to be fixed? Every time you sacrifice yourself so someone won't leave, ask, who abandoned me first? Healing is not linear. It is not beautiful. It's a descent into the underworld, a raw conversation with your inner child. It's returning to buried memories, feeling them, releasing them. Yes, sometimes that child cries, but sometimes they scream, they sabotage, they rage, because they've waited far too long to be heard. Let them be heard. Don't drown them out with spiritual cliches. Don't cover them with false positivity. Give them space. Ask your inner child what they needed and give it to yourself. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is medicine. It is the only balm that works when everything else has failed. And it takes courage, because part of you has learned to despise yourself, to blame yourself, to demand of yourself, repeating the punishment once imposed on you. Break that cycle. Reparenting yourself emotionally isn't about reading more books. It's about seeing yourself through new eyes, creating new responses, ending the search for mother in other people. Let me be clear. The world will not give you what you didn't receive. It wasn't built for that. The world will demand from you, judge you, ignore you, and in that chaos, you must build yourself. Emotional freedom begins when you stop repeating the pattern, when you choose differently, when you remember you are not 5 years old. You are not trapped in that house. You are not dependent on affection. You do not need permission to be yourself. But there's a part of you that still believes you do, still hopes, still silently pleads. That part is not to blame, but it is your responsibility to heal it. Do it. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Do it now, because if you wait to feel ready, you may never begin. Healing doesn't arrive in silence. It comes in noise, in chaos, in fear. And when it comes, it doesn't look like you expected. It looks like loss, like emptiness, like quiet. Because healing is also letting go of a version of yourself you've known too well. It's saying goodbye to the role of the victim. It's the end of waiting and the beginning of action. Does it hurt? Yes. But staying where you are, that hurts more. So look at yourself. Truly look. Ask, which part of my suffering still belongs to that inner figure I call mother? And how much longer am I willing to let her rule me? Make peace, not with her, but with yourself. Because in the end, what matters most is this: the mother that shaped you is not as important as the mother you choose to become for yourself. And she is still to be born. There's another layer, more hidden, but incredibly powerful. The invisible benefit. Yes, you heard that right. A logic you never consciously chose, but one that quietly pulls your soul like a thread. No matter how much you grow, no matter how many books you read, how many therapy sessions you attend, if you don't understand this, you'll keep returning to the same place. Want to know what this secret trap is? Your unconscious believes that by surpassing your mother, you betray her. That's how twisted this game is. Don't try to think about it logically. It's not a thought. It's a feeling. It's embedded deep in your emotional system, because you grew up believing your identity was tied to hers. That what she lived through, suffered, believed, you too must carry. Without realizing, you made a silent pact, a hidden promise that says, I won't be better than you, Mom. I won't be freer than you. I won't fully heal if you didn't. Do you see the prison? And the most terrifying part is, It feels like love. We're not talking about hatred or anger here. We're talking about unconscious loyalty that keeps you chained to her pain, her disappointments, her limitations. That's why you repeat stories you don't understand. That's why, every time you get close to something greater, you sabotage it. Because a part of you whispers, if I'm happy and you are not, then I betray you. But here's the brutal truth. Your suffering doesn't honor her. Your stagnation doesn't save her. Your unhappiness doesn't heal her. So why carry what was never yours? There is a scene that plays out in thousands of wounded souls. A child who won't allow themselves to live fully, just to protect the feelings of a mother who is no longer here, or who was never truly present to begin with. As if, deep down, they want to say, look, Mom, I'm suffering too. You're not alone in your grief, and it's killing you. The real betrayal isn't leaving her story behind. It's endlessly repeating it. Because if you truly love her, if you truly want to be free without sacrificing her, you must understand one thing. To honor the mother is to surpass her, not as an act of ego, not in rejection, but as evolution. She gave you life, and you must multiply it, not diminish it. You must transform this inherited pain into something new, into awareness, into transformation, into a life that is truly yours. But to do that, you must break the silent vow you made before you could even speak. I won't be freer than you. Break it, not in anger, but in love. Say it to her in silence, even if she's no longer here, even if she never truly listened. Mom, thank you for what you were able to give me. But now, I'm walking a different path. And this path doesn't lead to resentment. It leads to your freedom. Because as long as you live in hidden loyalty, everything becomes repetition. You'll repeat her fears, her disappointment, her way of loving, her inability to set boundaries, her need for approval, her guilt, her sacrifice, her pain, and you'll do it unknowingly. Have you realized how many of your life choices were guided by this shadow? Maybe that's why rejection feels unbearable. Maybe that's why you feel guilty when things go well. Maybe that's why you choose partners who make you feel small. Not because you are weak, but because you are loyal. But that loyalty comes at a high cost. Your life. And if you dare to question it, to look it in the eye, something will open. A space will appear. A strange silence. Because for the first time, you're separating your identity from hers. For the first time, you say, I am not you, and you are not me. And to the child you once were, this feels like abandonment. But to the adult you can become, it is birth. This is where it all begins. And this is not about breaking relationships. It's about redefining them within yourself. Because whether your mother was the most loving, the most absent, the most cold, or the most boundary crossing, what matters is not her. What matters is the place you gave her in your soul. And that place, if not brought into order, becomes either an altar or a prison. You either idealize her or you are enslaved by her. Both are distortions. The only way to heal is to dissolve the fantasy. And this fantasy wears many masks. The martyr mother, the perfect mother, the victim mother, the all-knowing mother. But none of them are real. They are constructs of your mind. Myths that block you from seeing the one truth. She, too, was a daughter. She, too, carried ghosts. She, too, was a victim of her time. She, too, loved as best she could. She, too, made mistakes. And you are not here to repeat her fate. You are here for something greater, to turn this emotional inheritance into wisdom, to make the unconscious conscious, to close the cycle, so your children, if you have them, or ever will, won't have to carry what you carry now. Because that's what's inherited. Not things, not genes, but unresolved patterns, unprocessed emotions, unspoken trauma, the weight of the unsaid. And here is the most important part of all. You cannot change the past, but you can change how the past lives within you. Do it. Not for her. Do it for yourself. You don't need to break away from your mother. You need to break away from the distorted archetype you carry within. You need to evict the voice in your head that judges you when you shine. You need to question the guilt you feel every time you choose yourself. And this liberation is not against her. It's for you. Because the original wound does not define your destiny. What defines it is what you do with it. So here's the final question. How much longer will you pay tribute to a pattern that doesn't serve you? How much longer will you live carrying a story you never even started? It's time to turn inherited pain into fuel, to stop surviving and start living. But for that, you need one thing: courage. Courage to let go of loyalty. Courage to rebuild yourself without the figure who either gave you everything or took everything from you. Courage to look in the mirror and say, "Now I take care of myself." And when you do this, when you choose yourself, when you break free, only then will you truly honor her. Because the greatest tribute to the one who gave you life is to live it. And just when you think you've let go, that you've broken the inner loyalty, something else appears, something more subtle, harder to detect, more deceptive: emotional self-abandonment. And yes, it is directly tied to the mother archetype still living in your shadow. Because what does a child do when they don't receive the emotional care they need? They adapt. They stay silent. They learn to take care of themselves. Suppress. Pretend it doesn't hurt. And that survival skill becomes, over the years, your way of life. Have you noticed how you treat yourself? How you speak to yourself inside? How you demand from yourself things you would never demand from someone you love? It's no accident. It's a continuation of the same pattern. It's you, recreating the abandonment you once endured. but now, from the inside. And here lies the tightest knot in this story. No one is hurting you now. You're the one continuing to hurt yourself in the name of an old program. Every time you deny yourself rest, every time you neglect your pain, when you betray yourself to avoid bothering others, when you accept the unacceptable out of fear of being unloved, you are replaying the same script. If I abandon myself, maybe they'll love me. Do you know what that means? It means you learned to survive by emotionally ceasing to exist. It's slow, invisible, quiet self-destruction. You became your own authoritarian figure, the one who won't let you cry, the one who demands you stay strong, the one who pushes you to perform, give, hold everyone but yourself. And you know what's most twisted. The more you abandon yourself, the more you hope someone else will come and save you. But they won't. Because no one can give you what you don't give yourself. Here's the real revolution. Start caring for yourself in the way no one ever did. Become your own inner mother. Reparent yourself from scratch. Learn to offer yourself the love you were once denied. Give yourself permission to feel without judgment. Speak to yourself gently when you fall. Stop demanding perfection when what you really need is comfort. Yes, it feels strange at first, because for years you were trained in criticism, in numbness, in emotional coldness. But none of that is yours. It's a borrowed program, a system you inherited, not because it worked, but because it was all you knew. Want to break this cycle? Start with a simple question. How would I treat a child who just went through what I did? What would you say to them, seeing them tired, worn out, on the edge of collapse? Would you push them, call them weak, or hold them without expectations? Now realize that child is you. Yes, even today, even if you're 30, 40, 50, even if you've become tough, even if it seems like everything is under control, that child is still there, waiting. But no one is coming, not in the way you imagined, not to rescue you, but for you to become the figure you needed. And this is not cheap mysticism. This is deep psychology. Jung knew. What remains unconscious will appear in your life as fate. And here it plays out ruthlessly. If you don't become aware of your self-abandonment, you'll repeat it in every relationship, every job, every decision. You'll live from lack, from emotional hunger, from the aching need to be saved. And the paradox? You stop needing to be saved when you become your own sanctuary. It's hard, of course, because no one taught you how. You were taught to compete, to achieve, to prove. But no one taught you to hold your inner world, let alone embrace your shadow. And here comes another forgotten part. The negative inner mother. That voice inside that isn't truly yours. The one that whispers you're not enough. You're behind. You haven't earned it. You must do more. You're not allowed to feel what you feel. But you took it in as if it were your conscience. And it's not. It's an inner figure. a distorted archetypal energy that took the place of your confidence. And unless you shatter it, you'll go on living believing your worst enemy is you. But you're not the enemy. You're just replaying what you were taught. So how do you break it? Listen to it. Yes, listen. Because what you resist persists, but what you observe transforms. Next time that voice appears, don't run. Don't drown it in fake affirmations. Don't mask it. Look at it. Ask it. Where did you come from? Whose voice are you? What are you repeating to me that was never mine? And you'll see. You'll see the threads. You'll trace it back to the beginning. And in that moment, something will awaken in you. Not like a mystical enlightenment, but a clear inner resolve. You'll realize you've been trapped in a story you never questioned. And the moment you begin to question it, you reclaim your power. This is true psychological awakening, not prayers, but this moment when you stop being the echo of your childhood and become the creator of your adult life. But don't confuse it with blind positivity. This isn't bypassing pain. It's about responsibility. It's about seeing yourself clearly. It's about no longer waiting for someone to fill your emptiness and beginning to fill it yourself with small, conscious steps. Need a compass. Here it is. Stop abandoning yourself, especially when you need you the most. When tired, don't push, rest. When sad, don't judge, stay. When scared, don't shame, listen. This is a new language, a new inner mothering, a new emotional framework that breaks centuries of inherited patterns. And I know it all feels enormous, overwhelming. But remember, you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it differently. Because if you don't break the cycle, no one will. The transformation you long for, it's not out there. It's in every inward gesture. Every time you choose care, even when you don't feel like it. Every time you set a boundary, even if your voice trembles. Every no you speak, so that you can say yes to yourself. This is love, real love. And believe it or not, this is a revolution. Because in a world that teaches you to demand, to punish, to compare, choosing tenderness toward yourself is an act of rebellion. It's looking into the eyes of your family history and saying, with me, the pattern ends. Not because you're better, not because you're stronger, but because you've chosen to wake up. And when you wake up, nothing can put you back to sleep. Not judgment, not guilt, not that old voice that once paralyzed you. Because now, you no longer seek approval. You walk from within, on a new path, a route built on awareness, on boundaries, on true love. Not love that demands, not love that sacrifices, but love that supports, respects, and cares. The kind of love you always deserved and can now give to yourself. And this, even if it doesn't feel like it, is the inheritance worth passing on. And when you arrive here, something in you has already changed. You don't need confirmation. You feel it. It's a subtle vibration, the one that arises when you finally look at what you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It's a strange mix of emptiness, strength, grief, and rebirth. Because yes, the end of this path is not applause, not magical enlightenment. It's silence, new silence, clean silence, because you've finally dared to end the noise of inheritance. Now you understand why you so often didn't know who you really were, why it was so hard to be at peace with yourself. Because you were inhabited by voices that weren't yours, burdened by needs not born with you, reacting from pain passed down for generations. But not anymore. Now, what remains is yours, your space, your identity, your voice. And here's the most beautiful truth. It's not that you'll live without wounds. It's that for the first time, you'll live with them consciously. And that changes everything. Because the wound is not the problem. The problem is living while running from it, pretending it's not there, pretending that if you don't name it, it'll go away. But it doesn't. It transforms. When you face it, speak it, walk through it, and in that final crossing, something is born. Your true emotional maturity. Not the one built on control or coldness, but the kind that accepts that within you live both broken and wise parts. Parts that still cry, and parts that have learned to hold. Do you know what that means? You've crossed the threshold, that point of no return, where you stop being the symbolic child of the past and become the symbolic mother or father of your present. You no longer live from what you lacked. You live from what you choose to create. And that is the kind of power few ever reach. Because it takes courage, brutal honesty, and almost a wild will to release excuses, people-pleasing, inherited fears, and begin to live with yourself from the inside out, not from the echo of the old story. And now that you know this, what will you do with it? This is where the video ends. But something more important begins. Something invisible, the part no one sees, but you will feel it every day, in every choice, in every new way you speak to yourself, every time you don't repeat the pattern, every time you choose consciously instead of from emptiness. And that, even if no one applauds, is a form of freedom that can't be bought. So I'll leave you with one final thought, one that perhaps sums it all up, but in new words, a phrase to keep, repeat, and burn into your soul. When self-love is born from healed pain, it stops being a trend and becomes a quiet revolution. And if you've made it to the end, comment below, "I am the end of this pattern." Because if you've made it this far, you are no longer the same. You have seen what others don't dare to look at.